The night was quiet on Outpost Theta. Only the soft hum of power lines and the slow breathing of machines filled the air. Miles Hart, the lone engineer stationed there, sat by the observation window staring at the stars beyond the thick glass. He liked the silence. Silence never asked questions. It only listened. For 6 months he had been alone on this frozen moon. His duty was simple: maintain the power relay station that connected human colonies across the frontier. It was a lonely job, but Miles preferred it that way. He used to work in big cities, surrounded by noise and people, until one day he decided he'd rather listen to the hum of space. That night, something changed. The sensors gave no warning. No ship appeared on the radar. No sound, no message. Yet when Miles turned back from the window, he wasn't alone anymore. There, sitting beside his old metal chair, was someone. Or something. She looked human at first. Her hair was silver white, not from age, but as if it reflected starlight itself. Her eyes glowed faintly, soft like distant moons. She sat calmly on the cold floor, her hands folded neatly in her lap, looking around the room as if she belonged there. Miles froze. His hand hovered over the alarm switch. But something in her eyes made him pause. There was no threat there, only quiet curiosity. "Who are you?" he finally asked, his voice breaking the long silence. The woman tilted her head. "I am here," she said softly, in a voice that sounded almost musical. Her words were slow, unsure, and like someone learning to speak. "That's not an answer," Miles said, still cautious. "How did you get inside the outpost?" "I came quietly," she said again, almost smiling. The door was locked, all systems sealed. No one could have entered without tripping the sensors. Yet she was there, sitting as if she had always been. Miles decided not to trigger the alarm. The outpost was too far for help to arrive quickly, and she didn't seem dangerous. He stepped closer, his boots clicking on the metal floor. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked out the window before replying. "I do not know what I am called." "You may give me one." Miles blinked. "You don't know your own name?" She shook her head slowly. "Names come after belonging. I came because I felt I should be here." Something in her tone stirred a strange feeling inside him. Not fear, but familiarity. Like meeting someone he had forgotten long ago. Miles sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "All right, let's say I believe you. You can stay for now, but I need to figure out what you are. If you're lost, maybe I can help you get back." She smiled. A quiet, genuine smile that reached her glowing eyes. "I am not lost. I am found." He didn't know what to make of that. For the next few hours, Miles observed her. She didn't eat, drink, or even blink much. She seemed fascinated by small things. The way steam rose from his coffee mug, the way light flickered off metal walls. Sometimes she asked strange questions. What is warmth? Why do you hide pain behind silence? Why does a heart beat louder when it is not alone? Miles didn't know how to answer most of them. She said her name could be whatever he chose. After some thought, he called her Lyra, after the constellation visible from his outpost's window. She accepted it with a soft nod, repeating the name slowly, as if she was tasting it. "Lyra," she said, smiling faintly. "Yes, that feels right." Over the next few days, things became stranger. The machines that often broke down started working perfectly. The flickering light stabilized. Even the communication array, which had been unreliable for months, began transmitting without error. When Miles asked if she was doing something, Lyra only smiled and said, "Things like to be calm when I am near." He didn't understand what she meant, but he noticed that even he felt calmer around her. The silence of the outpost no longer felt empty. It felt peaceful. At night, she would sit beside him by the window. They watched the stars without speaking. She always sat close enough that he could feel a soft warmth radiating from her, though the room was cold. "Where did you come from, Lyra?" he asked once quietly. She looked out the window, eyes reflecting the distant galaxies. "From between places," she said. "Where light and thought meet, where lost things go before they are remembered." Miles frowned slightly. "That doesn't make sense." "Neither does loneliness," she replied softly. Days turned into weeks. The logs showed no record of her arrival, no life signs besides Miles himself. Yet the sensors sometimes picked up a strange energy field near her. Faint, almost like static, When he asked about it, she only said, "I am not what you are, but I am not apart from you either." He didn't know what to say. She was not kind but mysterious, and though she was unlike anything human, she somehow felt human. The way she smiled, listened, and sometimes stared at the stars as if remembering something painful. One day, a transmission came through the communication panel. It was the first human signal in months. The voice crackled through static. "This is Command Center Helios to Outpost Theta. Respond, Heart." Miles jumped up and replied, "This is Heart, reading you loud and clear." The voice continued, "We're detecting an unknown energy source in your area. Report any anomalies immediately." Miles glanced at Lyra, who stood silently by the window looking out. He hesitated, then said, "No anomalies here. Systems are stable." There was a long pause. "Copy that, Heart. Keep monitoring. Helios out." When the signal ended, Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You didn't tell them," she said softly. "I don't know what to tell them," Miles replied. "I don't even know what you are." Lyra walked closer, her steps soundless. She reached out her hand, resting it lightly on the table beside him. The lights flickered softly like they were greeting her. "You will know soon," she said gently. "But until then, thank you for letting me stay." Miles looked at her, the strange calm visitor who had come quietly into his life without warning. He didn't understand her, but he couldn't deny the peace she brought. Outside, the stars shimmered brighter than usual, as if something unseen was waking between them. And for the first time in months, Miles didn't feel alone. He didn't know it yet, but her arrival was not an accident. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that would change not only his life, but perhaps the future of humanity itself. Days turned into quiet weeks after Lyra's arrival. The outpost had never felt more alive. The air felt warmer, the walls seemed to hum softly with energy, and even Miles's own heartbeat seemed steadier. Yet deep inside he knew something had changed, something far beyond the understanding of any human engineer. Every night Lyra sat beside him by the observation window. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her words carried weight. Sometimes she asked strange questions that lingered in his mind for hours. "Why do humans fear what they don't understand?" she asked once, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Miles smiled faintly. "Because we've been taught that unknown things can hurt us." She looked at him with her glowing eyes. "And what if the unknown only wants to understand you?" Miles didn't have an answer. One morning, while running a systems check, he noticed something unusual. The energy readings from the power core were far above normal. But instead of danger, the systems were running smoother than ever. The numbers were so stable they almost looked perfect. "Lyra," he called out. "Come here. Look at this." She walked over silently. The light from the monitor reflected off her silver-white hair. "These readings are impossible," Miles said. "It's like someone rewrote the physics of the power grid." Lyra looked at the screen calmly. "It needed to be healed." "So I healed it." "Healed?" he repeated. "Machines don't heal, Lyra. They break, and then people like me fix them." She turned to him, smiling softly. "Machines are made from matter. Matter remembers harmony. I only reminded it." Miles leaned back in his chair, watching her carefully. "You're not human, are you?" Lyra looked down almost sadly. "I am not only human," she said quietly. That night he couldn't sleep. His mind kept spinning with questions. Who or what was Lyra? A machine? An alien? A dream? He looked at her sleeping, or rather resting, near the window, her silver glow dimming like moonlight behind clouds. Even in her stillness, she looked peaceful, kind, and strangely familiar. The next morning, the calm ended. A communication alert blinked on the console. Miles opened it, a direct transmission from Command Center Helios. "Heart," said the voice of Commander Rayner, strict and clear. "We've detected a constant quantum energy spike from your outpost. That level of power can't be natural." "What's happening there?" Miles hesitated. "Systems are stable, sir. No danger here." Rayner's voice hardened. "We have orders to investigate. A science vessel is on the way. They'll arrive within 48 hours. When the message ended, Miles turned toward Lyra. She had been listening silently. "They're coming," he said. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, I felt them notice. You felt them?" Miles frowned. "Lyra, if they find you here and see that you're not human, they'll—" He stopped himself, unwilling to say the rest. Lyra finished his sentence gently. They will study me. Take me apart to understand me. Miles met her gaze. They won't understand you the way I do. Lyra tilted her head. And how do you understand me, Miles' heart? He took a deep breath. You're not dangerous. You're peaceful. You fix things. You make this place feel alive. She smiled softly. Then maybe I am what humans used to be before they forgot. The next day passed in tense silence. Miles pretended to continue his maintenance work, but his eyes kept drifting toward Lyra. She was standing near the window, staring at the distant stars like she was listening to them. When he approached, she spoke without turning. They are worried, she said. Your people. They always look at the stars with fear. Miles crossed his arms. Maybe because the stars always look back. Lyra turned to him then, her eyes glowing brighter. I came from beyond your stars, but not to harm. My kind were once like you, curious, reaching, brave. But they lost themselves in the light. I came to remember what we were, and what you might become. Miles felt a chill that wasn't from the cold air. Your kind? He asked quietly. You mean humans? She nodded faintly. Long ago we were human, before we forgot how to be. That night, as he tried to sleep, the outpost lights dimmed and flickered. A low hum filled the air. Miles jumped up, checking the control panel, but all systems read normal. Then Lyra spoke from behind him. They're coming faster than expected. The ship entered orbit. Miles stared at her. Now, but they said 48 hours. They were afraid, she said simply. Fear makes humans hurry. Miles's heart raced. If they see you, Lyra, I don't know what they'll do. She looked calm, almost serene. You must decide, Miles, hide me or let them take me. He ran a hand through his hair. There has to be another way. She stepped closer, her presence calm and warm. I do not want to hide, but I do not wish to bring fear to your kind again. They once built wonders among the stars, but fear turned them inward. I only came to remind you what you can be. Miles swallowed hard. Then let me help you. When the science vessel landed, its bright lights cut through the frozen fog. Miles greeted them at the docking bay, his uniform crisp but his hands shaking slightly. Commander Raynor stepped out first, tall, sharp, and suspicious. Report, Engineer Hart, he said. Where's the energy source? Miles led them inside. The outpost felt strangely alive, humming quietly as if aware of the visitors. The commander's team scanned every corner, their instruments buzzing softly. Raynor pointed to the readings. Right here. Whatever it is, it's powerful, and it's moving. Miles's throat went dry. He tried to stay calm. Maybe a magnetic fluctuation. The systems have been unstable since last cycle. Before Raynor could answer, one of the scientists gasped. Sir, look! They all turned toward the observation window. Lyra was standing there, calm, graceful, her silver glow faint but visible. Raynor raised his weapon out of instinct. Identify yourself. Lyra didn't move. I am Lyra, she said softly. I came in peace. Her voice filled the room like music, gentle but powerful. The scanners around them flickered, then went silent. The lights dimmed but did not go out. Everything felt still. Raynor frowned. What are you? Lyra smiled faintly. A memory of what you once were. A whisper from your own beginning. Miles stepped forward. Commander, please, she's not a threat. Raynor ignored him. Contain her, he ordered his team. Before they could move, a soft pulse of light spread from Lyra. It wasn't an attack, it was warmth, calm, peace. Every metal surface glowed gently as if alive. Raynor froze, staring at his scanner. It showed 0 energy spikes now, total stability. She's stabilizing the systems, one scientist whispered. She's helping. Lyra looked at them all with quiet compassion. You fear what you cannot control. But control is not the same as understanding. Raynor lowered his weapon slightly, unsure. Why are you here? To remember, Lyra said softly. And to help you remember too. Later that night, the science team stayed aboard their ship, confused but unharmed. The commander allowed Lyra to remain under observation. Miles and Lyra sat once more by the window, the stars shining brighter than ever. You didn't hurt them, he said. I never could, she replied. I only reminded them of peace. For a moment they listened. Miles turned toward her. What will happen now? Lyra looked at him, her expression calm. Change begins with one person who chooses to listen. Perhaps, Miles' heart, that person is you. He smiled faintly. Me, I'm just an engineer, She shook her head gently. You are human. That is enough. Outside, the stars shimmered like they were breathing. The outpost hummed softly, alive and calm once more. Miles looked at her. The being who came quietly, without warning, and settled beside him like she belonged. And for the first time, he believed she truly did. But far beyond the moon's horizon, unseen by both of them, signals were already traveling through the void. Messages carrying Lyra's name, her energy readings, her image. Humanity was listening. And soon, they would have to decide whether to embrace the mystery she brought, or to fear it once again. The night air on Outpost Theta was colder than usual, but inside the warmth of quiet energy lingered. Miles' heart stood by the observation window, watching the distant lights of the science vessel blinking like tiny stars. Lyra sat beside him, calm as always, her silver-white hair catching the glow of the outpost lights. They're watching, Miles said softly. Lyra nodded. And they are listening. Your people are afraid of what they cannot control. But they also hope. Miles looked at her. Hope after all that fear? She smiled faintly. Fear is strong, but so is wonder. Both exist in the same heart. The next morning, Commander Raynor and his team returned to the outpost. This time they came prepared not with weapons but with instruments to measure and study. Their scans were careful, cautious, hesitant. Miles followed them, heart tight. Commander, please. You don't need to hurt her. She hasn't done anything wrong. Raynor's stern face softened slightly. We don't intend to hurt her. But we must understand the energy source here. It's unprecedented. Lyra stood quietly by the observation window. When the team approached, she did not flinch. Instead, she extended her hand slowly toward the instruments. The monitors pulsed lightly and the readings stabilized further. See? She said softly. I only help. I am not danger. One of the scientists, Dr. Mara, whispered to Raynor. It's amazing. The energy is calming. Systems are stabilizing naturally. It's almost like she's communicating with the machines. Raynor studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Perhaps we've been too quick to fear. But what exactly are you? Lyra smiled faintly. I am what your people used to be. Brave, curious, and unafraid to dream. I came to remind you of yourselves. Hours passed. The scientists ran their tests carefully, recording every reading, every movement. Miles stayed close to Lyra, feeling both awe and concern. She was beyond human, yet more human than anyone he had ever met. Kind, gentle, patient, and wise. Finally, Raynor spoke again. Miles, the command center wants us to bring her in for study. We must know if she can be contained, if she can be replicated. Miles shook his head. No, that's not right. You can't contain her. She isn't a machine. She isn't a weapon. She's a being. Lyra's eyes met his. And what will you do, Miles Hart? Will you let them take me? Or will you help me choose my own path? He swallowed hard. I don't know. She stepped closer. Humans make choices every day. Sometimes small, sometimes great. This choice is yours, but it affects more than just you. Miles clenched his fists. He thought of the lonely months he had spent in the outpost before Lyra came. Of the peace she had brought. Of the quiet wonder in her eyes that reminded him of the stars. Of curiosity, courage, and hope. I will not let them take you, he said finally. Lyra nodded softly, a glow of approval in her eyes. Then we must act carefully. Fear is strong, but kindness is stronger. As night fell, the outpost became a place of quiet preparation. Miles helped Lyra access the hidden maintenance tunnels beneath the station. These passages were old, forgotten routes designed for emergencies, perfect for leaving without being detected. Commander Raynor's team was still inside the main station, unaware that Lyra and Miles had begun their silent journey. You know the risk, Miles whispered. Lyra smiled faintly. I know, but you are not alone in this. Humans are capable of courage when they choose it. They moved through the narrow, cold tunnels, stepping lightly, speaking in whispers only they could hear. Miles felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. He had no idea where this path would lead, but for the first time in months he felt fully alive. Above them, the science vessel's lights scanned the outpost. The instruments detected nothing unusual, nothing that suggested Lyra had moved. It was as if the tunnels themselves were shielding her presence. They emerged on the far side of the moon, where the rocky terrain stretched into endless silver dust. Lyra looked up at the stars, tilting her head. Every place has a beginning, she said. And every path has a choice. You chose courage, Miles Hart. That is the start. He looked at her. And what about you? Where will you go? She smiled softly. Back to where I came from, to remind others as I reminded you. Miles nodded. Will I see you again? She reached out and lightly touched his shoulder. The touch was gentle, warm, and lingering, as if leaving a memory behind. Perhaps, she said softly. But even if you do not remember what you have learned, humans are more than their fears, more than their limits. You are stronger than you know. The next morning, the command center finally realized Lyra was missing. Panic rose among the scientists and crew. Commander Rayner sent immediate messages to Earth, reporting an unknown entity escaping from an outpost. But Miles had no regrets. He stood at the observation window watching Lyra rise above the horizon, a faint glow against the black sky. She moved with grace faster than anything human, disappearing into the stars. The outpost hummed quietly around him, systems perfectly stabilized, machines working better than ever. Lyra's presence had left a mark, not only on the equipment but on Miles himself. He thought about the months of loneliness before she came, about the quiet nights spent staring at the stars, and about the lessons she had left behind: courage, curiosity, kindness, and hope, the qualities humans often forgot, but that she had reminded him of. Weeks passed. Humanity sent probes to the outer moons hoping to find traces of Lyra. Scientists argued over her origin, her abilities, her purpose. Some wanted to replicate her to understand her fully. Others whispered that perhaps she was a gift, a memory of humanity's better self. Miles watched the news from his station, feeling a quiet pride. He had chosen not fear, not control, but trust, and in doing so he had honored everything she had represented. One night, he returned to the observation window and whispered into the silence, "Thank you, Lyra, for everything." The stars shone brighter than before. For a moment, Miles could swear one of them blinked back at him, a soft, gentle glow that reminded him of silver hair and quiet smiles. He smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. Humanity was still imperfect. Humans still made mistakes, but in the vastness of space among the stars they had been reminded of something important, that even in fear, there was hope. Even in loneliness, there was connection, and even in the unknown, there could be courage. Years later, the outpost became a center of learning. Engineers, scientists, and explorers came to Theta to study the systems. But Miles always remembered the lesson Lyra had left him. Not all knowledge could be studied. Not all power could be measured. Some things, the most important things, were experienced. Kindness, courage, hope, and the quiet, gentle presence of someone who came in quietly without warning and settled beside you like they belonged. And in the night sky among the infinite stars, Miles sometimes thought he saw a faint silver glow, a reminder that Lyra was out there continuing her journey, spreading the quiet magic of understanding and wonder wherever she went. And humanity, for all its flaws, would continue to reach for the stars and were braver, kinder, and more human than before.